Development Manager, Siobhan, and Alabama A&M alumnus. The logo patch will be on the jerseys for Alabama A&M season opener August 29th against Howard in the SWAC MEAC Challenge in Atlanta. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
Literally right in front of our doorsteps the last 2-3 years, we have been interrupted by this nightmare of a project called Destination Crenshaw. The desire was partnership at the onset, but we've seen broken promise after broken promise. We've seen our parishioners impacted. We've seen our peers and our local neighbors impacted directly by this. We've seen the crippling of the Crenshaw economy as a result of this project starting and then ultimately walking away. And we're not going to just lay down. We're not going to just, amen, pretend like nothing's happening on our doorsteps. And tonight I want to get out of the way because I want to hear from you. I can stand there as a pastor and tell you how many times we've been interrupted from our flow of worship, how it's impacted our ability to provide services to our community, how the blight and how the construction derailment has hindered our ability to amply run our food pantry programs, to offer summer camp programs for our young people, how the construction impacts just our ability to be able to come to church and park. I can go on about how it's interrupted just our day-to-day operations and being able to accommodate the needs of our community.
Making sure they stick to the truth. We're KBLA, Talk 1580.
Junior Show. The Jesse Jackson Junior Show. The Jesse Jackson Junior Show. The Jesse Jackson Junior Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. KBLA. Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Good afternoon, and welcome back to the program. Last weekend, the Democratic Socialists of America held their national convention right here in Chicago. Thousands of delegates, feas draped over shoulders, office hats and bandanas marking out the organization's internal factions, all wrestling with a question that has followed DSA since Zohran Mamdani's win in New York. Can this movement actually build a multiracial, working-class coalition, or does it keep running into the same wall? Because here's what the numbers tell us. Mamdani won his primary. DSA-backed candidates are stacking up victories across the country, 35 and counting heading into November. But dig into the precincts, and in predominantly Black neighborhoods, in the areas where the median income sits under $60,000, the enthusiasm just wasn't there the same way. We saw it again in Michigan Senate primary, where a DSA-endorsed candidate, backed by Bernie Sanders himself, by AOC, by the whole squad, trailed badly among Black voters, even while running well with young and more affluent progressives. That's not a footnote. That is the puzzle I want to spend real time on today, because I don't think it's a mystery at all. I think Martin Luther King Jr. answered it 60 years ago in a sermon almost nobody reads anymore, and my guest today lives at exactly the intersection where the answer gets tested in real life. Bishop Joseph William Tolton is the founder and president of Interconnected Justice, a Black internationalist network built to connect African Americans with the continent and the diaspora, political power, economic power, and spiritual power moving together. He spent 19 years as a bishop of global ministries for the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, doing frontline work across East Africa, stepping into this new chapter earlier this year. He was raised Pentecostal in Harlem, preaching from his own windmills as a 6-year-old boy before he ever preached from a pulpit. And here he spent his adult life proving that Black prophetic tradition and a fully affirming LGBTQ inclusive gospel are not in tension, they are in the same tradition, fully lived out. He's also been one of the sharpest voices connecting Black domestic politics to the global stage, writing about why Black America has to think internationally to defeat the agenda behind Project 2025, why Haiti's story is really inseparable from our own. So today we're going to talk about democratic socialism, about DSA Chicago Convention, about why Black voters, the most loyal constituency in the Democratic Party coalition, keep putting the brakes on a movement that says it's fighting for exactly what the people represent. Is it theology? Is it trust earned the hard way by decades of promises or broken? Or is it something Bishop Tolton sees more clearly than most of us, standing where faith, race, and global justice all meet? Bishop Tolton, welcome forward to the program.
It is always good to be with you, my dear brother Jesse. Blessings to you.
Tolton, I am so grateful that you're here. Let me, with this 3 minutes that we have just before we come forward, you watched this convention unfold in Chicago. What did you see in the caucuses, the CAFIAs, the factions, and the news coverage that we all missed?
I think overall, you certainly saw a very confident organization leaning forward, as there is such a wind at the back of this movement, given the recent wins that they've had, obviously in New York City with Mayor Mamdani's endorsements, but also they've had wins in DC, in Washington, DC, and in Colorado. But what I also think we saw was a historic issue emerge, where you've got those on the far left who are working around the proposition of economics, really wrestling with how do we integrate the questions of race and racial justice. And I think more importantly, as they emerge, they've got to deal with the question of the destruction of Black political power and how this movement is actually going to respond and answer that question as well, and how that movement understands the integration of those two questions. Where are we going in terms of our economic might and power for the middle class, and how does this speak to matters and issues of racial justice and the need for the reconstruction of Black political power, and how those issues are well integrated?
Bishop Tolton, that's real talk right there, because Robinson versus Calais has been and was a major issue from my perspective in my campaign, because I made it so. But the DSA doesn't appear to be interested in the history of these Black political power moves that are being made against us by Donald Trump, Project 2025, the DIJ, and the entire MAGA movement. There seems to be more of an interest in their economic vision, what they see, and oftentimes it comes against the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, these caucuses that have been the beneficiaries of the Voting Rights Act. We have about 45 seconds before we come forward, Bishop, and I know we're going to get more into this, but it's all yours.
Well, that is so well said, because the DSA doesn't have a black voter problem. It has a black history problem. And I think that's just what you lifted up. It doesn't seem to recognize the history of black people as being so important and necessary to the ways in which we have produced a black middle class and the safeguards that ensure that there's some sense of economic equity in our country.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest, the founder and president of Interconnected Justice, which was established in 2019, Bishop William Joseph Tolton. More when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an 8+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
We've had neighbors who have had the garbage truck potentially swipe their vehicles because if you park just a little bit too much into the street, you're at risk of getting it hit. If you park too much forward or back, you can't get in and out of your own driveway. And if you're late for a meeting or an appointment, pretty big deal. I really hope we never have a major emergency on this street because being able to get fire department in and out would be very difficult. Personally, while the project goes well beyond anything that my husband and I are facing personally with our home, we do have a very large project within our house. We are very blessed to be in it, but it needs a completely new foundation. It is currently slipping into Crenshaw right now, and we cannot do that work because a concrete truck can't come in to actually do the work. So it's a bit scary for us in that manner. But there have been, there are numerous things that I know we will hear about today that everybody is facing on a daily basis. We really look forward to hearing what everybody has been going through and then trying to find a way to get the construction complete and move forward.
Making sure they follow through. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King of Bobby Bradley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are on Moving Mountain Monday. We're in Mr. Kren's classroom. Ernest is taking the day off, and we're very grateful that Bishop William Joseph Tolton is our very special guest, founder and president of Interconnected Justice, which was established in 2019. Bishop Tolton, welcome forward to the program.
Blessings, my dear brother.
Bishop, let me ask you this question. It's obvious that the DSA is riding real momentum. Mamdani, 35 primary wins. But recently, its own youth wing debated abandoning the Democratic Party altogether. And that's where we're sitting, by the way, in mass in the Democratic Party. Is that a movement at the height of its power, or is it one that's struggling right now with an identity crisis?
I actually think that two things can be true at the same time. I do think that in terms of its contemporary history, yes, there's no question this movement is at the height of its power since Bernie kicked it off. But let's also perhaps suggest that your father may have actually planted the seeds, at least for some of the economic ideas that are there. I want to note that. But if we want to say that Bernie kind of, kicked it off, certainly now they are at the peak of their power. But at the same time, because they are at the peak of their power, they are having to really wrestle with some real issues about their core identity and their core beliefs. We have the Congresswoman elect running in Colorado, who recently has been very clear about the positions that she embraces on the DSA platform, but also where she breaks. And more, as people come forth, they're having to also explain, no, I'm for this, and yes, I'm for that. Again, because they're at the peak of their power, but they're wrestling with not only their platform and how comprehensive it is, but who gets included and who are going to be the power brokers. And to your question, how are they going to integrate with the Democratic Party and deal with the fact that there are folks in the party who already have certain holes on power? All of that has to be negotiated if they're going to fit under this broader tent of the Democratic Party, which I think would be productive for the country at large. A cessation from the Democratic Party, I think, is just kind of immature.
Yeah, let me talk realpolitik for a minute, because I was in Congress with Nancy Pelosi, and I watched this amazing legislator from the Bay Area become Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the grace within which she ruled and ran the caucus, which is its own animal. It reminds me often of that scene in the movie Ben-Hur, when he's in the Coliseum and he's trying to organize teams of horses. Some run faster than others turn the corner faster, but lining them up in the right place when one is running the circus in Rome thousands of years ago is a factor in how you maintain a caucus. And I watched also how the right wing took Nancy Pelosi, nationalized her name, nationalized her liberalism, and then used it against the Democratic Party in dozens, maybe hundreds of congressional districts around the country, because Nancy Pelosi became this ire. She became this figure, this polarizing figure, a polarization, I must be candid with you, that I never saw. I think, of course, Hakeem Jeffries runs the risk as well of becoming a nationally polarized figure as the first African-American potential Speaker of the House of Representatives. Back to the DSA. When some of the DSA Democratic nominees, if you will, those who won in the primary contest, talk about abolishing the police, some of their extreme positions can easily take someone that no one knows, picture them and paint them as the ire of the Democratic Party nationally. I suspect that's what's drawing the attention of James Carville and others, the danger of that, and literally use one candidate in a congressional district in Colorado, in New York, or anywhere, and use it against the entire Democratic Party, where it's impossible to hear moderate Democrats or even progressive Democrats who don't go that far in their positions. Any concern about that, Bishop Tolton?
Certainly. We have to be concerned about that, but I don't think that we should become hysterical about it. And let me say this, there are certainly some positions that the DSA is taking, like abolishing the police, which we know are never going to fly. I think it's really important that they start to come out and really narrow down the things that are most important, particularly for this upcoming electoral cycle. So I think we've got to stay focused on what's happening in November and focused on the salient issues in their platform that they know are going to help the Democrats certainly take back the House, but potentially even take back the Senate. So in terms of kind of like the politics of how we run this game in between now and the election, which are really important, That's my sense there. But at the same time that we're doing that to confront this most urgent, immediate possibility, I also think that there's got to be some real work done upon really laying the groundwork for what is the core ideology that's driving the DSA. What are their core principles? And what are those core policy positions that are make or break versus other policy positions where they know people are going to have kind of a diversity of issues because things like abolishing the police or abolishing the IRS are just kind of too far out there. So I think that there's got to be a both and I would like to see the DSA mature and actually present itself in a certain way where they are clear that they're going to be really pushing those issues around affordability, and they're going to second track some of these other more contentious issues and allow deeper conversation within their own ranks and in broader conversation with the broader Democratic Party as well.
You know, Bishop, I've never met Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but I remember from her very humble beginnings where she was when she entered the Congress of the United States as a former bartender in New York, and the kind of work that she did to get elected, and how she proudly proclaimed her credentials as a Democratic Socialist of America. She was barnstorming every event, #1 sought after speaker in the Congress of the United States, youthful enthusiasm, all of the tools and all of the great stuff that she brought with her. And I think someone got to her and said, you could be president of the United States. You have to be able to appeal to Texas, to Georgia, to South Carolina, to North Carolina, to Florida, in order to get 270 electoral votes. There's no need as a young person to be a young person in a hurry. Take your time and learn the institution of Congress and know the government and the people that you seek to lead. Is this part of the maturity that you said the DSA is a process that many of their members still have to go through?
I think the example that you've just given is absolutely spot on. And yes, it speaks exactly to what I am suggesting. The evolution that we have seen in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in terms of both her command of the issues, how she takes positions, her ability to now be far more focused. I saw a recent interview with her, and I thought that she was so clever and that she kept coming back to, my people know me, and I want the rest of the country to know me. The thing that is most important to me, the change that I want to see is, I want to see universal health care for all. I want to see Medicaid for all in our country. And I think she was so smart about really creating a new banner or canopy, political canopy under which she lives and is seen. And yes, she is expressing far more of a sense of maturity and focus and being far less incendiary, but also towing the line as it relates to some positions she's had, which are potentially radical, but I think she's being much more of a disciplined radical, if I will. And if the DSA, if they're going to be radicals, I encourage them to be disciplined radicals. And I think that there's so much room for them because the American public, I think, has a real appetite for strong candidates on the left who are going to fight for real principles on the left and not be ashamed and show the same sense of radical imagination that the right has shown, but with discipline and compassion and be grounded in some real political thinking.
Bishop, can you help our listeners understand this theological blind spot, if there is one? Is DSA's materialism, the idea that economic redistribution alone solves the problem, are they missing something when it comes to Black voters? Because Black voters have also insisted on the idea of healthcare, education, housing, equal protection of the laws, and basic constitutional values that since the inception of the Republic on September 17, 1787, have tended to elude them.
They're missing it again. Let's go back in history to the early 20th century, right? Because there was a socialist movement in response to some degree to the Gilded Age. And more than a century ago, the forerunner to Marcus Garvey, Hubert Harrison, one of the greatest political thinkers America has produced, broke with the Socialist Party because he believed that it consistently subordinated the struggle against white supremacy to the struggle over class. And Harrison argued that race was not a secondary issue that would disappear after economic reform, but in fact, it was the organizing principle of American political and economic life. And I think that that has been the blind spot for socialists. It was back then, and it has been to some degree for the DSA, and I hope that that's something that they're going to check. Listen, Black voters have approached political life a little bit differently than folks on the left or the right, because for us, the politics of democratic survival have been central for us. Democratic survival that expanded our freedoms. That is the way that we assess and think about policy and politics, from the perspective of, does this enhance our democratic survival, and does this expand the freedoms that we enjoy? That is not a question that other races have had to ask. And so we've judged political movements less on their ideological purity and more on the question of whether or not they have expanded freedom. And we understand well that to expand democracy in this country is inextricably linked to expanding the freedoms for Black people socially and politically.
Bishop, I try to tell people all the time that we understand affordability better than most. What do you think a chitlin is?
Yes, that's exactly right.
That's a piece of the hog that nobody want.
Absolutely. What is cabbage?
what are collard greens?
Yes. No, that's absolutely right.
We understand affordability.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have always had to build democratic power under the conditions of racial exclusion and economic dominion. That is a distinction of our experience. And that history cannot be treated just as a chapter in a broader progressive story. It is the central story of America's modern democracy.
I think the caste and class arguments fall short we were right there on affordability. We've always been right there on affordability. We've got Aldi's, for Christ's sakes. We've got a Family Dollar. Kroger's and Publix is not across the street from our homes. It just isn't. And it's rare to find a Jewel's, right? We go to the communities in large measure where Home Depot is and where Walmart are. We understand what Walmart did to small businesses in our community when they put a grocery store in there, and all of the other school items, how it eliminated A&P.
Mom and pop shops, exactly,
Absolutely.
and A&P and the Black branded shops that we went to. Woolworths,
and that's our language. Our language is in the affordability space, so we're really not, Bishop, in a caste or class debate with the society in ways that, let's say, Bernie and other architects of that movement would like to think and often make.
That's absolutely right. We are really talking about the structure of our economy and its ability to be captured by an elite group that then racialize that capture and keep us as Black Americans out for obvious reasons. But here's the trick. They do the same thing to poorer white Americans. And poor white Americans, they have never had a champion. They've never had a Jesse Jackson. And so we also understand that, but they've been able to kind of close the mouths of poor white Americans because they feed them the bread of moral panic about immigrants and other racial issues. And so they get captured by these issues of morality and all of those kind of social concerns, and that's also a form of oppression that we, bringing our racial lens to this understanding or conversation about economics, can actually, I think, help to break the spell that many white working class people are under because they've been so captured.
I had a really important question that I wanted to ask Bishop Tolton when we come forward, and when he headed down this line, I'm going to change it slightly. The question I was going to ask is why Black voters keep hitting the brakes. But now I want to ask an even more complicated question as we go into our longer break to give the bishop some time to think about it. Why has the working class white community in our nation never produced a Martin Luther King Jr. or Jesse Jackson? More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Bishop Joseph William Tolton is the founder and president of Interconnected Justice. More right here on KBLA 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The Royal Court has been crowned for Chicago's 95th annual Bud Billiken Parade with Black Mayor Brandon Johnson in attendance.
We have so much to be proud about in Chicago.
11-year-old Lawrence Williams was named king, while 12-year-old Lila Wilson was crowned queen. The nation's largest African-American parade kicks off Saturday. Lawmakers in Mississippi and Maryland are considering changes to how congressional districts are drawn. Mississippi's new redistricting committee is reviewing population shifts and community input, while Maryland lawmakers are meeting in a special session to consider a constitutional amendment setting new standards for future congressional maps. And singer Tems is the first female African artist to earn a diamond certification in the U.S. Her collaboration with rappers Future and Drake on the song Wait For You has now sold more than 11 million units. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers believe they have added the final piece to winning a third straight World Series. An hour before the Major League Baseball trade deadline, the Dodgers made a deal with the Detroit Tigers to acquire right-handed pitcher Tariq Skubal, the best pitcher in baseball the last 2 years. Skubal won the Cy Young Award in 2025 and 2024. The Dodgers only had to give up 3 minor league prospects to get him. Alabama A&M will be the first HBCU football team to wear a corporate logo on their jersey. Alabama A&M, a member of the SWAC conference, agreed to a $250,000 sponsorship deal with Omni2 Max, a tech services firm based in San Diego. The deal was put together by Omni2 Max business development manager Siobhan Kamek, an Alabama A&M alumnus. The logo patch will be on the jerseys for Alabama A&M season opener August 29th against Howard in the SWAC MEAC Challenge in Atlanta. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa,
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Created with a share of the 1984 Olympic Games surplus, LA 84 began operations in 1985 as a grant-making and educational foundation. Today, the LA84 Foundation supports hundreds of nonprofit youth sports organizations throughout Southern California annually, trains coaches, commissions research, convenes conferences, and maintains the world's premier Olympic and sports library collection. They are transforming lives and communities through the power of youth sports. To find out about youth sports programs for yourself or your child, and to get information about the grants and support they offer to schools and nonprofits, or if you want to make a donation, please visit la84.org. That's la84.org. Or you can call them at 323-730-4600. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In the next hour, Reverend Dr. Terry Hoard Owens is our very special guest in the Faith Not to Fall. She is the president and general minister of the Disciples of Christ Church here in the United States. She is the second woman and the first African American to lead that denomination, and we're always grateful for her insights on Monday on this particular time and during this period. Normally, the Ernest Krim classroom. Today, our very special guest is none other than Bishop Joseph William Tolton, founder and president of Interconnected Justice. Bishop, I'd like to dive right back into our conversation, if you don't mind. When I think about Mamdani winning his primary, he still underperformed badly in very black, poor, working class precincts that the DSA says it exists to serve. Why? And why has the Democratic Socialist of America not produced a Martin Luther King Jr. or a Jesse Jackson?
Let me tell you, there's so many reasons I love coming on this show, but this question, I think, is definitely one of them. Nobody else will ask this question other than Jesse Jackson Jr., and it's such a big question. Couple of things here. Race has repeatedly fractured class solidarity. Working class white Americans have certainly organized around economics, the Knights of Labor, the Industrial Workers of the World, the Congress of Industrial Organizations, et cetera, et cetera. But racial divisions within these organizations continued to weaken these coalitions. It's also important for us to note that Southern elites in particular and white elites always go after these organizations, and they appeal to racial identity and often to disaggregate the durability of these organizations that are really being driven by class. So race repeatedly fractures class solidarity. I think it's also important to know that Black leadership has emerged from institutions that already existed. So the Reverend Jesse Jacksons of the world didn't come out of nowhere, but he inherited the traditions built by the Black church, historically Black colleges and universities, the civil rights movement, organizations like the SCLC and the NAACP. These were institutions where there was a tradition of moral authority that leaders had to draw from. Another issue is that white identity has never really depended upon collective liberation in quite the same way that our freedom has as well. They don't have the same sense of kind of an internal unity. And that's because whiteness is really a construction of the American imagination. I mean, at one point, the Irish were not considered white, right? Like Irish people were not white. America made them white because we invented the idea of because we invented the idea of whiteness. And I would also say that the labor leaders that have emerged have rarely become national moral leaders. People like Eugene Debs and even Cesar Chavez, like they were labor leaders, but they never operated under the mantle of moral leadership. And what that meant was that they had micro movements. They didn't have macro movements that captured the imagination of a broader group that was able to really drive the creation of a movement that would create structural change. They were going after far more surgical change than the structural change of that was led to by leaders like Dr. King and Reverend Jesse Jackson and others.
Great answer, Bishop. I'd like to press you on that just a little bit, in that, when my father marketed and coined the idea of the Rainbow Coalition, it became an inclusive movement that included the far left, the far right. He was very open about the idea of red, yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. The farmer, because we like to eat. The garbage worker, the social worker, the sanitation worker, because we want to stay sanitized and want to keep our neighborhoods clean, all coming together in coalition. He framed it that way. But when I hear Democratic Socialists of America, I immediately start with Karl Marx. I'm like, why am I discussing Karl Marx when I'm hungry as hell? Help me with that, Bishop. Is the framing of the DSA wrong? Many of the issues that they fight for are natural to who we are, but they pull us into a conversation about class and caste that doesn't necessarily deal with the tabletop issues.
Because they don't go back to the root cause of the problem, in that the great American economy and capitalism and our success was built on the back of slaves. If you have a workforce that is as productive as the Africans who were enslaved was, and you do not have to pay that workforce, the margins on your profit are just off the chain. And based on their ability to exact more awful methods of torturing the Black body, which led to more efficient picking of cotton, that cotton was then sold to Europe. Europe turned it into clothing and was able to sell it around the world. And that operation became the core of the Industrial Revolution. So America's success as a capitalist nation was based on the efficiency of Africans who were enslaved being able to produce cotton and, of course, not being compensated at all for it, creating, again, these wild economic margins. You've got to go back to the fact that America fell in love with that system. America became defined by that system, and it was economic at its root, but it was totally highly racialized. The socialist movement of the early 19th century, and I think the DSA today, that blind spot is that they are not dealing with that core issue. The corporatization of our country did not start, in the Gilded Age. The opportunities for that were based on the ways in which the Black body was tortured, and ultimately that torture led to the production of America being the wealthiest country on the earth. That narrative must be core to their proposition.
I've argued that the Black political tradition has always sought remedies inside the Constitution, yes. Amendments, not manifestos.
Yes.
Do you see it the same way, or do you think that the tradition needs updating for this moment? For me, it's like any program that comes out of the DSA convention, even if it's sound, is going to be called a manifesto.
Yes, it will be called a manifesto. That is for sure. I think we may need both and. We may need some manifestos to, again, kind of electrify the imagination of leaders around the country. And then these leaders can bring along their constituencies. But you do have some DSA leaders who are arguing that we need some changes to our Constitution, like we've got to revisit the Electoral College, and we may even want to revisit the distribution of members in the Senate based on the population of your state. So I think that we're going to have a little bit of a play of a both and.
A final question in this segment. You've written that Project 2025 was and is a global racialized operation. Is democratic socialism actually an answer to that threat, or a distraction from building Black political power on our own terms?
You know, what's fascinating about that is on many levels, I think that what's coming out of the Sahel in Africa, particularly under Traoré, Ibrahim Traoré, is actually very remnant of some of the principles of democratic socialism. I'm not sure if there's conversation there, but I'm sure that there's some kind of study in terms of the ways in which he is really pushing African nations to be more, to covet their resources, to not sell those raw materials, but to actually refine them and turn them into finished goods that they're then able to sell for the benefit of their local populations. Because again, at the heart of democratic socialism, it is about a democratic system that delivers economic possibilities for its people. And I think it's interesting that as this movement is growing in the United States, you also have a movement of collective economic defiance that's growing across the continent. And I think that there should be a conversation between the two for sure.
Is this a trust issue? I mean, we've earned it the hard way. We've seen broken promises from both Democrats and Republicans, the left and the right. Or is it theology, a movement that speaks the language of justice without the language of judgment?
I think that it is definitely both. There is no doubt that we are a people who need to see the proof in the pudding, because we've been so brought along and so overpromised, and there's been such an under delivery historically. There's no question that is absolutely that's absolutely a part of this as well, Jesse.
I'm wondering then between now and November, if that coalition can actually be built. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More with Bishop Joseph William Tolton, founder and president of Interconnected Justice, when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail, and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
While Gavin was telling the story about the mural at LAX, I kid you not, Gavin, somebody just texted me a photo of it. See, this is unacceptable. That inside of LAX, they have a mural. These gorgeous, beautiful pictures of Destination Crenshaw. It don't look nothing like this. We don't know when they're going to restart or when they're going to finish, but they're marketing and promoting this inside of LAX. It's not right, y'all. It's just not right. You can't exploit us in that way, right? Get the project done, then you can brag about it. But can we finish it first?
Keeping them in check. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 15.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Moving Mountain Mondays. Mr. Krim's Classroom with Bishop Joseph William Tolton, founder and president of Interconnected Justice. The strategic intent of the organization is to be a force uniting global racial justice movements in which the continent of Africa and its diaspora build an ecosystem of self-defined and determined advocacy. The Bishop's passion for connecting Black Lives Matter and Pan-Africanism flows from his deep convictions that the global project of our lifetime is to dismantle white supremacy and to deconstruct patriarchy. Bishop Tolton believes this is a spiritual project that demands highly connected secular activism. Bishop Tolton, how can we support your work?
Blessings to you. Please go to icjustice.org. You can support us by certainly donating and contributing to our ongoing work to bring together African and African diasporan leaders that we might collectively reject the forces of white Christian nationalism and their global political intentions and advance a project of African reconstruction where we as African Americans and Africans discern and design and implement a future of our own collectively.
That's icjustice.org. icjustice.org. The letter I, the letter C, icjustice.org. Please join. Please donate. Bishop Tolton, let me ask you a couple of final questions. If you had 5 minutes, and let's take 5 of them now, with the delegates who just left Chicago's convention, what's the one thing you tell them about how to actually earn this constituency?
Yes. I would tell them that there have been moments in time where we have seen great hope and possibility. I would go back even to the movement of the great Azusa Street revival, where Pentecostalism was born, and you had people worshiping interracially, and there was the possibility of that really producing a movement that was fighting for racial justice. Unfortunately, that got sniffed out. But I want to go back to the fact that that moment of possibility existed. I think that it's so necessary that these leaders recognize the need for racial justice and, again, economic justice to never be divorced or to never be separated. And a part of that means that they're going to have to challenge working white class voters to actually deal with issues of racial justice. And your brilliant question, the flip side of that question in terms of why has there never been kind of a white Jesse Jackson or Martin Luther King, I think we also have to push these leaders to ask, why have white middle-class workers consistently rejected the leadership of people of color who have tried to lead movements that lead us to a different economic end by addressing the questions of racial inequality?
That's a great question. But I think inherent in that question is, why haven't, given that so many poor working class whites who live in trailer parks, who are now being greatly, from my perspective, misled by the MAGA movement, why has that group, larger than the African American population in the nation, why has its conditions not created a Martin Luther King Jr., someone determined to build a free state of Jones, someone determined to lead working class whites to the equality that they were guaranteed under the Constitution on September 17th, 87. They too did not own land on that date and found themselves in a deeply troubled arrangement under the Constitution of the United States. Let me ask you a final question, and maybe it does incorporate the word of hope, but take your time. What should our listeners be watching for between now and November?
I think that we should be listening for leaders who are presenting a message about the future of this country that is bold and uncompromised. I think that we've got to listen for leaders who understand that the reason that we are in this moment is that America has refused to repent of its racism, has refused to address this question of the truth of its racial injustice, and it pretended to support redress through a civil rights program. But obviously, the MAGA era has said to us that that was all a deception and that they were never really in full support of a program of redress that might even lead toward the possibility of reparations. We need a bold leader who is going to take a stand and clearly tell the American people that our moral, spiritual, economic, and political condition is totally intertwined. And we as a people are never going to make it to the other side unless we deal with this fundamental blind spot that Americans have never fully dealt with. And that is, what is the redress that must be granted to African Americans in order for the soul of the country to be healed? And the crisis of affordability and this great moral question, these issues are both inextricably linked. I'm waiting for a leader who continues to press the affordability crisis, but that can also connect that to a historical issue that must be addressed, or what we're dealing with, or the solutions we're talking about around the affordability crisis are merely band-aids, but they are not. They are not going to deal with the virus that America continues to suffer from.
There's no doubt in my mind that if you were the keynote speaker at the Democratic Socialists of America, that you would have left not only with the standing ovation, but with the credos and the bona fides to be able to argue why the marketing of DSA may not be as appealing as its true affordability message. And maybe, and this is something I've kind of observed amongst this younger generation, when they take pictures, they don't lead with their nose. Increasingly, some people turn their behinds to the picture and look over, but God didn't organize it that way. He put his nose in front of us, not our behinds in front of us. And so if the Democratic Socialists can recognize that something as basic as the conditions under which we have been living have always been questions of affordability. Some of us drive miles to get gas, because it's more affordable on the other side of the state of Illinois in Indiana than it is on the south side of Chicago. These are factors that we factor into. We drive miles to get to work because the job base finds itself in downtown Chicago and in the northwestern suburbs, and not on the south side of Chicago and in the south suburbs. We have adjusted to trying to make a living in this space. And we don't need any labels to speak to what our reality is. Our reality is directly tied to segregated housing and redlining and having to catch public transportation to get to a job, and even the denial of a good seat on public transportation. Bishop Tolton, we have about 2 minutes before we come forward for your word of hope.
There is no question that your analysis is spot on. I have hope because I do believe that there are young people who do get it. I believe that there are young people on the left who do understand. If we go back to that awful moment that we had with the murder of George Floyd, we did see a movement among white people who woke up, and you had so many white people saying, oh, this is what they were talking about. It was kind of a Kairos moment where their eyes became open to the truth of the ways in which the Black body has been the subject of such brutality by the police system across the world. And all of a sudden, our belly aching wasn't just belly aching, but there was proof. I think that there are young people who also understand these issues in terms of racial justice and economic justice. And my hope and my desire is that they will take the microphone and that they will start to amplify that message. And I'm also hoping that a core of young Black people who are there in DSA will also assert themselves, and that they will also amplify their message and step up. Because to your point, affordability ain't nothing new to us.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., Bishop William Joseph Tolton, founder and president of Interconnected Justice, ICJustice.org. icjustice.org. The letter C, justice.org. Go to that website. Find out how you can learn more about interconnected justice and support Bishop Tolton's work. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Bishop, thank you for being with us.
Such a blessing to be with you, Brother Jesse.
More on KBLA Talk 1580 with the Reverend Dr. Terry Hord Owens when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The Royal Court has been crowned for Chicago's 95th annual Bud Billiken Parade with Black Mayor Brandon Johnson in attendance.
We have so much to be proud about in Chicago.
11-year-old Lawrence Williams was named king, while 12-year-old Lila Wilson was crowned queen. The nation's largest African-American parade kicks off Saturday. Lawmakers in Mississippi and Maryland are considering changes to how congressional districts are drawn. Mississippi's new redistricting committee is reviewing population shifts and community input, while Maryland lawmakers are meeting in a special session to consider a constitutional amendment setting new standards for future congressional maps. And singer Tems is the first female African artist to earn a diamond certification in the U.S. Her collaboration with rappers Future and Drake on the song Wait For You has now sold more than 11 million units. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have some work to do to get back on track after they were swept at home by Boston over the weekend. The sweep capped a 2-4 homestand. The Dodgers are in Chicago tonight to start a 3-game series against the Cubs. The Rams are heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl this season, but they're in last place in a category that means something to a lot of people. Sports Illustrated has come out with their rankings of the best NFL uniforms, and they list the Rams as having the worst uniforms among the 32 teams. Number one on the list, the Chargers. The folks at Sports Illustrated love the Chargers lightning bolt logo with the yellow and white color combinations and those throwback powder blue jerseys. The top 5 uniforms on the list, the Chargers, San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're moving now into something that touches the sacred and the urgent at the same time. My guest for this hour is Reverend Terry Hord Owens. This is her show, Faith Not to Fall. She's the general minister and president of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, the first woman of African descent to ever lead a mainline Christian denomination in this country. She was elected in 2017, reelected in 2023, and came to the University of Chicago's Divinity School, where after more than 2 decades in corporate America, she spent this ministry insisting that the church actually live the anti-racist, justice-centered gospel it claims to preach. She sits on the World Council of Churches. She's active with the Poor People's Campaign, and she's not the quiet, and she's not been that quiet And the moment demanded a word from the pulpit. And this moment demands one because over the past year, we've watched a pattern emerge in this country that none of us want to see again. Black men and boys, in at least one case, a Black teenage girl found hanging in public from trees, from playground equipment, on church property, case by case. Mississippi, Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, California, and case after case, the same official conclusion arrives fast. Suicide, no foul play. And case after case, families say, prove it to us. A recent study modeled on Ida B. Wells's own Red Record identified more than 70 suspected modern-day lynchings across the Deep South since the year 2000, and its authors argue plainly that an early suicide ruling is often exactly what shuts down any deeper investigation. Reverend Terry Hoard Owens wants to talk about that pattern today and what it means for church to stay silent while our children are found hanging from trees in 2026. Madam President, welcome forward to the show.
Good to be with you as always.
Madam President, a major moral crisis, the silence of the church.
Major moral crisis. We have so many situations, and this is really not new in the history of Black people in this country. There have always been hangings, killings, people found dead, people gone missing, and systems of law enforcement not really interested in getting to the bottom of it. And in many cases, members of law enforcement being actually culpable for what's happened or participating in the cover-ups. Just the rash of killings that we saw around July 4th from Nolan Wells, and even a little earlier, friends of mine, their son, Howard University, was found dead, and no one has answers. And people do want to jump to these conclusions of, it was suicide, let alone foul play. So it's a very disturbing trend, and I think that it continues to remind me. I'm married to a Black man. My father is a Black man. I gave birth to a Black man. I have a grandson who was a Black man, and not just the boys, but the girls also are in a world where, particularly the church, we proclaim this idea of the Imago Dei. Many of us are saying that the dignity of human creation is violated when you don't respect our right to vote. That's the first moral ground upon which we ought to be fighting for protection of the right to vote, as opposed to reduction of that right. But the right to life and dignity, you're seeing all the issues that are happening with the federal government, the duplicity, the corruption, the racism, the xenophobia. All of those things are making what's happening in our local communities, local law enforcement. The FBI is corrupted. So it's in the water. It's like, it's just okay, as though people think the general population is going to accept these very sketchy reasonings about what happened. I'm just really disturbed. And now that there is an unexplained death that has come close to the circle of people that I know, I'm particularly just concerned about all of this. There's just been too much, and we're not saying enough, and no one is demanding answers, and no one is forthcoming. And the sad thing is that it's okay to just let it, the next news cycle will get rid of it. There's no sense of accountability by local law enforcement that they have to come up with the right answers here.
Madam President, let's start with what families are actually experiencing. Case after case. Mississippi, Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, California, a young Black person is found hanging. And the ruling comes back fast: suicide, no foul play.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that sequence by itself reopen a wound this country has carried for over a century?
The primary, as you know, the primary method of lynching for centuries was to hang and then set the body, on fire. The history of public lynchings in the United States, and I think legal scholars even say that you can lynch people by means other than hanging. But for us, that emotional visual and the emotional memory of seeing bodies literally hanging from trees, from Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit. It's such a, it led Brian Stevenson to create the Legacy Museum down in Montgomery. That has been such a visceral way of local people, local white people taking what they call justice into their own hands. So whenever we see a noose, right, just the very idea of a noose is triggering for us. I remember when we first moved into the home we live now in Calumet City, there was a billboard as you were driving past this large cemetery. And we'd been here maybe 2 months. There was a noose, and it looked like a burnt body and effigy on the billboard. And I wrote a letter to the Southtown News, the local paper, really reached out to the woman who was then the mayor of Calumet City, and was just really, really angry. And there were people who reached out to me to say, oh, that's just somebody trying to create problems for the Democrats in the election, or trying to create problems for this particular mayor. And I was so incensed. I made several calls to the mayor's office. She apparently came by my house when I wasn't there, but never really followed up. It took me a while to actually get in touch with her. But the idea that I was just let that go. Oh, that's just somebody trying to pull a thing. It's so triggering, and nobody wants to deal with it. And yet we know that the symbolism of the noose is real. So I don't think it's coincidence that these young people are being found hanging. I don't think it's suicide. And I think somebody's using that symbolism to make statements.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We're talking about the hangings of many more Black men other than what has taken place in Mississippi with Brother Nolan Wells, and the silence from the community, the silence from elected officials on these deaths, these subject matters, and the impacts that they're having on families. We have more to talk about right here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Monday with Reverend Terry Hort Owens when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
And we are here on the chocolate side of Los Angeles to simply lift up Black dignity, Black honor. No spirit of hatred here. We here because we love our people. We love the people of this community. We love the people of every corner of this city. But some of us start on the chocolate side. And so all of the critiques, all of the calls for accountability have nothing to do with ad hominem attacks on any elected official. It has to do with either indifference or incompetence, maybe even corruption. We don't know, but we just want to make sure that everyday people in this community are treated with the dignity that they deserve. That's why we're here.
Holding them accountable. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-550-9651.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest and regular contributor, Dr. Reverend Terry Hord Owens, is our very special guest. Reverend, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be with you.
Reverend, let me ask you this question. Where is the line pastorally between honoring a family's grief and refusing to let a case go quietly before it's actually been examined? I mean, at what point in time is enough enough? At what point in time, as my dad would say, that's some good preaching material right there. That's some good preaching material. At what point in time is silence from the church a real betrayal?
I don't think there's a line where the church should ever be silent on these matters. I mean, I think too often families in the midst of their grief, everybody can't get to Ben Crump, right? There are too many situations where I know over history, the church, particularly even in the Black church, has told families, don't stir stuff up, right? Was it Emmett Till's uncle who testified? Then they left town, right? They moved. They had to get out of there. It wasn't safe to ask the questions. It wasn't safe for your family to demand justice. And even now, I know there are people who say, "Oh, why all the publicity? All the why? Just sort of get over it." Anybody? I've never lost a child. My cousin's daughter was murdered 9 years ago. And it's you learn to live with the whole, you never get over it. She, insisted, asked questions, and sadly, it was the child's father who had killed a 7-year-old little girl, and she demanded justice. And I get it that in certain times you don't want a lot of publicity, or you don't want to be the subject of news conversations. But the courage of somebody like Mamie Till, who said, it's not just about my grief, and she had support from her community to say to, I think it was the A.A. Rayner Funeral Home, that, no, I want them to see his body. I want them to see what they've done to my son. And I see many of the parents who are dealing with, whether it's drowning or hanging, understanding that they're being willing to be open and have a more public conversation and to demand answers and justice is helping to shed light on stuff that's being done, undercover. The whole system of white privilege, like the white kids who were there with Nolan Wells, he's such a good friend, and all of a sudden they're silent. The sound recording that we've talked about that was enhanced to show that there was some conversation that happened before the 911 operator came online that conflicts with the stories that they're telling. And those kids were well connected. Their parents are well connected. It's white kids, things happen. They're able to take sanctuary within a system that's designed to protect them. And our society is still too comfortable with dismissing the death of young Black people. If you go, I'm in cemeteries a lot because I attend funerals, I officiate funerals. we have such, be it gun violence or strange situations that we can't explain. You go to cemeteries and you're going to see a lot more teddy bears and balloons and things that indicate that the people who are buried there are younger people. It's a real pattern. It's a real I hate to say a trend, but it's something that I'm seeing just in cemeteries. It strikes me that younger and younger people, there are fresh graves. Stuff is happening to our young people, and whether the story makes the news, if it's, we don't even think anymore, oh, there was a shooting here or there and 2 or 3 people died. We're there. That's expendable. And they will say, oh, black on black crime, those kids are bad, just get those guns away. But what it is doing, it's actually causing wider society. They can, because they've been told that it's okay to dismiss what happens in our community and what happens with our children. And too often churches aren't taking the bigger picture. We'll pay for a funeral. We'll come alongside the family, but we won't necessarily stand with the family in the public square and push back against the judicial system, the law enforcement system, and push back for answers. So I think we need to find us a little bit more Mamie Till courage, and a little bit more Michelle Hord courage that says, I demand answers about what happened to my child.
Madam President, Carolyn Adams writes on our social media, it feels more like a planned nationwide ritual initiating or a challenge, especially during the 4th of July weekend. And by that, she's referring to the deaths of Nolan Wells, Daniel Irving, and Tyler Smith. What say you?
We know that this is an element of certain kinds of cultic or gang culture. We know that even within gangs in the Black community, there are certain kinds of initiation rituals. We also know that this is true. Long before we had the term MAGA, we had white militia groups who would take their kids into the woods and demonstrate those kinds of things. My 8th grade history teacher used to tell us about going to Klan rallies and how he had his own Klan and hood and the things that he was taught and the ways in which he was taught to handle a gun. And watching, he witnessed his dad doing cross burnings, maybe not lynching, but the fact that we know that these things happen lets you know how insidious it is, because those kinds of initiation rituals say, if you do these things, then you belong to this wider thing, and it brings legitimacy. And in a world where so many kids are seeking, particularly at a certain point in their life, for that kind of acceptance and belonging, when we have systems of communities that say this is acceptable behavior in order to belong, or even as a form of protest over the 4th of July, we're morally bankrupt if that's what we're teaching our young people is necessary to be respectable in their communities. It's horrifying to think that young people are being told, hang a few people, kill a few people, and you'll be a man or you'll be a part of the community. It's just horrifying.
Madam President, there's a second crisis that's taking place at the same time. From Spokane, Washington, 3 fires burning as one complex, more than 600 structures already damaged or destroyed. I'd hasten to say that these wildfires are not being set by arsonists, although I can't prove that. That's for the investigators to determine. But one thing's for sure, the kind of storms that blew through Chicago, that have been blowing through some of our communities, are absolutely not triggered or set by arsonists.
Right.
Madam President, you operate in a very spiritual space. What's going on?
First of all, climate change is real. Hello. For those of you.
if you didn't know that now.
if you have a question, then you're not seeing what your eyes are clearly showing you. You're ignoring data and science. So the intensity of the storms and the frequency of the storms, we have a ministry within the Disciples, and in most mainline denominations, and most denominations, Black or white, have some kind of disaster recovery ministry. But we operate within a network that's affiliated with something called the ACT Alliance, which is a global thing. And we will tell our folks that instead of like sending paper towels to a location, right, we give money to Week of Compassion. Week of Compassion identifies the partners who are on the ground and communities that are on the ground. And it used to be 9 years ago when I first started this job. I started right before Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Maria. We are still doing work in Puerto Rico to help them recover. There are still roofs that have not been repaired after Hurricane Maria in 2017. There are still scars in the Gulf Coast area near Houston that are left from Hurricane Harvey. Wildfires, we see what's happening with the poor air quality just a few weeks ago. Wildfires all across the country. Our Week of Compassion has been in touch with so many congregations, because it's not just church buildings, it's people's homes, people having to evacuate. And when you have repetitive natural disasters that are occurring, it quickly begins to outstrip individual family resources and even community resources to come across them. You think about, was it Pacific Palisades? Very affluent community, right? Where many of the stars had homes and their homes were burned down. And we were, they're feeling the pain of losing their luxury dream home. Well, there are so many communities where this is happening and people don't have the resources to rebuild. And insurance companies don't even have the whole actuarial science of how you calculate risk and determine. Insurance companies are pulling back from offering certain kinds of insurance in certain kinds of places. So we have a community, a society that's being depleted of its ability to help each other. And unless we prioritize the ability to take care, the ability to get reasonable and affordable insurance, greater insistence on doing things that will help to mediate the impacts of climate change, like, getting away from fossil fuels, setting greater standards for construction and air quality and car fuel efficiency and all of those things. The Trump administration has pulled us back away from all these societal standards that we've put in place to try to keep some of this stuff in check. And I think we were at a point with the Paris Accords where they say, well, if we do these things, if we're aggressive about it, we can kind of hold back the night. Well, now all of the guardrails are off, and we're seeing the intensity. And community organizations are quickly being stripped of resources because there's so much that's happening, and it's becoming harder and harder for families and communities to be able to bounce back. There'll be another fire. There's another hurricane. It goes on. And it's troubling in the faith-based space because even the government agencies that used to help, USAID, right, and other agencies, they're pulling away money to help people recover from natural disasters or even to try to resettle refugees. The federal government is pulling away money to help people in communities. And there's not enough capacity in the faith-based community to replace money from the federal government that used to be more readily available to do these things.
Madam President, are these justice issues? And the reason I raised that question is we've seen the deaths on July 4th, and we've seen the internet essentially become an investigative staff for the Mississippi justice system. In the case of Nolan Wells, and quite frankly, Janetta Brantley, who was a guest on our program last week, did an amazing job excavating the sound, video. So we call that a justice issue. 3 African-American young men who lost their lives in various states on July 4th, also justice issues, inevitably, and in this case, represented by Ben Crump. But I'm wondering, given that hundreds of people lost their roofs, and the U.S. has pulled out of the Paris Accords and has pulled out of the idea that climate change is real, that drill, baby, drill is the mantra of the day. $13 billion in crude is missing from Venezuela, unaccounted for, while the people of Venezuela are trying to balance their books and strengthen their economy. Somehow there's a $13 billion hole in oil that Donald Trump says he's bringing to the market cheaper in this particular gas environment. I'm wondering, why not the same activity around justice issues, which I believe the environment is one, as there is polarized investigative work around a death?
I think one of the big injustices, or maybe the charade of our society, is this distinction that there are so many people who are not Black who are being impacted by these policies, and the fact that inequitable impacts are happening to poor people, low wealth people, not just Black people. So Justice Matter is not just about making sure Black people are okay. It's about making sure that we're all okay, not to the detriment of any one group. So you've got people in the Northwest who are mostly not Black, right? Who are being impacted by these kinds of things. And it is a justice issue because it's an economic issue that says that those that have are making decisions to maximize their profits. And
When we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We're going to look at the economy. We're going to look at environment as a justice issue, just like death issues, when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump says he looks forward to Todd Blanche being confirmed as Attorney General.
He's going to do a great job. Everybody knows it.
Blanche's nomination had been stalled by 2 Republican senators over a proposed $1.8 billion compensation fund for January 6 defendants and others who say they were unfairly targeted. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is significantly outpacing challenger Nithya Raman in fundraising. Bass raised more than $511,000 in June and has brought in nearly $3.8 million overall, compared with Raman's roughly $1.2 million. The general election is set for November 3rd. And Georgia Democrats rallied supporters at their state convention in Savannah, focusing largely on the cost of living. Lieutenant Governor nominee Josh McLaurin criticized Republican leadership, while Black gubernatorial candidate Keisha Lance Bottom said she wants to represent all Georgians, not just President Trump supporters. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have some work to do to get back on track after they were swept at home by Boston over the weekend. The sweep capped a 2-4 homestand. The Dodgers are in Chicago tonight to start a 3-game series against the Cubs. The Rams are heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl this season, but they're in last place in a category that means something to a lot of people. Sports Illustrated has come out with their rankings of the best NFL uniforms, and they list the Rams as having the worst uniforms among the 32 teams. Number 1 on the list, the Chargers. The folks at Sports Illustrated love the Chargers lightning bolt logo with the yellow and white color combinations and those throwback powder blue jerseys. The top 5 uniforms on the list, the Chargers, San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You can't fix what you won't face, and we face it every day. This is KBLA Talk 1580. In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through this city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays. We're in the Face Not the Fall with Reverend Terry Hoard Owens. Reverend Owens, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks for having me. Always good to talk with you.
Reverend Owens, how can we support your work?
Well, you can find me on social media at T Hoard Owens, at Terry Hoard Owens. You can learn more about the church by going to disciples.org. I have a book that was released last year called Staying at the Table, Being the Church We Say We Are. You can find that on all the places where you get your books online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at our press, chalicepress.org. But
thank you, Madam President. Madam President, let me get back to these justice issues. We have defined justice issues largely in no small measure because during the after Brown versus the Board of Education, the death of Emmett Till, the Civil Rights Movement, Rosa Parks, Dr. King's efforts, SNCC's efforts, desegregating lunch counters, desegregating communities, we've defined them racially. Rarely do our leaders or our community define justice issues outside of personal injury caused by another race. Like, for example, I could easily sit here and argue that the 10 African-American young men who got shot last week in 2 or 3 cities in this country didn't get the time that Nolan Wells did. It's a justice issue. It's not just Nolan. It's what we did to ourselves in these particular unsolved crimes that are also justice issues. But then there are other justice issues, how we treat women. There are justice issues, how we treat the disabled, how we treat the weather is a justice issue. Many of us get by without paying home insurance. coverage. But now flood insurance is now a factor in the way we have to live our lives, even in major cities. When are we as a church, when are we as a community going to expand our vision on justice beyond racial harm?
I think we, as most denominations, are probably, unfortunately, more concerned about the institution's survival. I mean, the institution of the church, and not as concerned as we should be about the work that Jesus really gave us to do. And if you boil it down to loving God and loving neighbor, for me, loving neighbor is the ultimate drive for justice, because it says, if I love you as much as I love myself, then I want for you for the things that I want for myself. And I don't see it as a problem for you to have even as much as I do, right? I don't see it a problem for you to live in a home where it's warm in the winter and cool in the summer, where you're not being outstripped of your resources just because you have to go to the hospital. So it's loving and caring for each other. You know, the early church in Acts, we're told that they held all things as common, from each according to what they had, and giving to everyone according to their needs. So if you had lots more than other people, you were okay with making sure that you gave some of that to others who didn't have enough. And you know, I'm not sure that there's a better economic system than capitalism, but we use these words socialism and communism to scare each other by thinking they're going to take what you have. And we forget about the fact that this is a nation where we're supposed to be caring for all, the least, last, and the lost. And we allow people to make exorbitant amounts of money. We remove regulatory requirements that would protect the least and the last. We have toxic parts of our communities where we've allowed all kinds of stuff in the soil and the water to impact people who can't afford to move away from those places with the idea we're just allowing companies to make more money. So we're more concerned about pleasing those corporate interests than we are about making sure we have safe air, water, and soil, making sure that we that all of our communities are safe from gun violence. The United States is the only developed country in the world that we have one gun for every person. I mean, it's a ridiculous number of firearms. We're not living in the 18th century anymore, where there are where British militia are coming to your door. That was the reason for the Second Amendment. But we're more concerned about the people who are in power and authority, and we're more concerned about making sure we keep our power and others don't get it, and we don't care for one another. And churches we've bought into and been built by a lot of that same kind of society. There was a time when if you were a decent human being, right, you had particularly in the mainline Protestant tradition that's predominantly white, you had a country club membership and you had a church membership and you were a good person. And all you cared about was what happened inside that building on Sunday morning. That's not the Christian message. That's not the message of any major religious tradition. So we're not even plugged into the things, the traditions that guide who we say we are. And we're more concerned about not upsetting the apple cart, or maybe even not upsetting certain donors. Politicians are more concerned about their donors than they are about what's doing right. It's moral bankruptcy at the highest level. And if we could help everybody understand the things that we do have in common, poor whites would vote with poor blacks and all, people of color. We have much more in common, because the same things that are affecting poor white communities are also affecting poor black and brown communities. But they have used the racial issue as a cudgel to keep us from building solidarity that could that would allow us to assume the kind of power that really reflects most of America. Most of America isn't making billions of dollars.
There's an amen to that. Most of us aren't making a couple of 100,000. Most of us aren't making 100,000. That's probably more accurate to state. I'm wondering if when we think about the environment as justice issues, do we also make the equation or the understanding that there is a relationship, I guess, in advanced science class, that what these fossil fuels are doing, what not transitioning to battery power is doing, or to solar power is doing, how much AI is really going to cost us in terms of the freshwater cooling systems, in terms of their sizes, that our own economic struggles and sacrifices and determinations to get ahead in this environment is allowing us to say we are not prepared to accept a new way of doing things and to doing business. That too, ignorance is a factor in what's taking place as well. Some of us just want gas in our car.
Right. And that ignorance plays a role, and people say, oh, you just don't understand what AI is going to do for the next generation. But the oil boom, right? Where people are manufacturing coal, great industrial expansion has always taken place with the focus being not on the ultimate impacts of the community. The industrial age was fueled by low earning wage workers, right? Poor and unsafe conditions. And the idea was let's just make a lot of money. So that's where we are back with AI. I heard somebody being interviewed in DC last week saying, oh, well, we're going to these small rural towns with the data centers and they're going to have more jobs, et cetera. But those are the very communities who cannot risk their resources being stripped. So it's a dilemma. It's both ignorance, but it's also uncovering the natural alliances that we have that we can use if we choose to create solidarity to address these issues.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're broadening the definition in this hour on issues that affect justice, not just the premature death of our young men and our young women, but why the environment in our community is not seen as justice, why healthcare is not seen as a justice issue, but as an entitlement. Why is an equal high quality education not considered a justice issue, like the deaths of young people in our community? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., a thoughtful conversation with Reverend Terry Ford Owens. More when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have a health reminder from the CDC.
Pneumococcal vaccination is recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
What's good, KBLA delegation? I am Miles Lowe, and I'm excited to be joining the weekend lineup right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Join me every Saturday at 12 noon for the Do Better Show, where we get into the world of tech, AI, the creator economy, navigating your mental health through it all, and have conversations with founders to find out how real people are making real money right now. It's not a course, not a subscription. Classes in session every weekend, live on the air. So if you knew better, you do better, right? So let's make a better you. The Do Better Show, every Saturday, 12 noon, and replaying again at 7 p.m. right here on Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk.
I love days like these at the pool, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. I'm ready to make a splash with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza. Skyrizi is a prescription-only injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. At 4 months, most people saw 90% clearer skin when measured from head to toe, and many were even 100% plaque-free. People also saw significant improvement in psoriasis symptoms of pain, redness, itching, and burning.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Now there's nothing on my skin, thanks to Skyrizi, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom? She started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest and regular contributor is none other than Terry Hoard Owen. She is the General Minister and President of the Disciples of Christ Church. Reverend, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you for having me. Always good to be here.
Madam President, I asked in the last hour Bishop William Joseph Tolton a question that I think matters. On questions of justice, Martin Luther King Jr. and, of course, my late father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and Reverend Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump, these gentlemen are associated with justice issues in the United States, but still, even in death, largely associated with those who are deceased, racial justice issues. Why has the white community, and again, this is a recognition that the denomination that you lead is multiracial, but largely white and with minorities, including Hispanics, Africans, Native Americans, and others, but the majority is largely white. Why do we not see justice issues, or they not see justice issues the way we do? And by that question, I asked Bishop William Tolton, why have they never created or produced a Martin Luther King Jr. or Jesse Jackson for working class white folk?
You know, that is what racism does. Racism creates a narrative that it is your whiteness that trumps everything else, and it is your whiteness that establishes your value. And the ruling class, or the billionaire class, or even the governing class can get your support by saying, you're not one of them, you're one of us. And so they see justice as dealing with those other people. How much do we have to do for other people? The sad and blind thing is that the very people that could benefit from economic justice being delivered for Black and brown people are poor whites who stand as much to gain. William Barber makes this argument all the time. If we could ever get people of low wealth across the board to coalesce and vote together, there is enough economic and voting power in that broader group of people. But when we're divided along this line of what really has value, and I may not have, we saw this after emancipation, the Ku Klux Klan fed its membership on this idea of distinguishing between those poor whites who were concerned that, oh, the freedmen are now going to start taking my jobs, they're going to get land, they're going to do all these things. Ku Klux Klan took that racial narrative and said, no, you're one of us, you're better than them. And so when you think that the system is really designed to work for people like you and all these other people are just people that you've allowed to sort of be at the table and participate, you have no need to fight against a system which you believe is designed to benefit you. And we've always been, as Black people and non-white people, in a situation where we're trying to break open this understanding that, first of all, you guys have created a system that is inherently unjust because it's designed only to benefit white people. And you want to act as though you're somehow good and kind because you're willing to maybe let us sit at the table or enjoy a few benefits and some breadcrumbs here. But the inherent functioning and structure of the system has not changed. It's still white privilege. And we will give young white people that aspirational belief that somehow they are still better. And we still see it today. That's why they're not investigating the lives of our young Black people, whether it's gun violence or drowning or hanging or whatever. Our lives don't matter as much because the system has already set up whiteness as the higher ordered value. And that's the reality.
Madam President, I can't get out of my mind that I can't find, and I know statutes, I can't find the statute that we fought for that did not benefit them even more than it benefited us.
Absolutely.
If we fight it for affirmative action against negative action, centuries of negative action, we needed something affirmative to overcome the negative. Affirmative action. The first beneficiaries of affirmative action have been white women.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When we fought for civil rights and crossed Edmund Pettus Bridge and took a whooping and got beat over the head, one of the first beneficiaries were short white men who could not be hired in police departments because they weren't tall enough. The same laws that protected us from racial discrimination protected them from height discrimination. I can't think of a Barack Obama who would fight and advocate for the Affordable Care Act, which has changed the health outcomes for more white people than it has Black people by sheer numbers.
That's right.
White folks who've never been covered with health care could then stand in line and fight against the very program that provides them the benefit at a lower cost for health. I can't think of a single thing that we've fought for in this country, but what I can promise you as we prepare for your word of hope is that when you take it from us in the name of us, it disproportionately hurts you more than it hurts us. Madam President?
Absolutely. And I think, as a faith leader, this is why I'm always saying, let's be who we say we are, because we have allowed these outside forces to color what's really a very equitable message that all faith traditions have in terms of, Jesus spoke more about caring for the poor than he spoke about anything else. And if we could ever really come together in our common interests, they say a rising tide lifts all boats, not in a world where we have structural racism, but we've got to really learn how to identify our own interests and the interests of others. If the interests of others matter as much as our own interests, which is the real definition of love, then we can really change society. But faith-based leaders and churches and religious institutions have to get serious about that idea of all are included. Otherwise, we're participating in the inequities of the system.
Madam President, thank you for reminding me of something my father used to say all the time. Rising tides don't lift all boats.
That's right. They do not.
The boats that are stuck at the bottom. Jesse Jackson at his very best. Madam President, we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Love you too.
Look forward to seeing you next week. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to The Faith Not the Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens. She is the General Minister and President of the Disciples of Christ Church, both in the United States and Canada. She is the first African-American woman, but the second woman to lead this denomination. And she is a very special regular contributor to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Mondays on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow on Tenacious Tuesday. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News.